Hey, welcome, fellow human beings, to the podcast Addiction, Abuse, Recovery by Matt Logan Speaks. I am Matt Logan. However, I'm not going to be your host. Our host for this podcast is Sherry Irvin, who has personal, unfortunate experience with addiction and abuse, but she has been in recovery for more than 8 years now. Part of Matt Logan Speaks, we want to just share other people's stories in the hopes that it will help you through your day, that it's just another tool in your toolbox to get you through the day. So please help me welcome your host, Sherry Irvin.
Hi everyone, my name is Sherry Irvin. With me today I have special guest, Mr. Jim Rumsey. Jim, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. A little bit about Jim's background. Jim is, you told me that you're in the union. You're a sprinkler
fitter. Yep. Been doing it for 31 years.
Wow. Long time.
Yeah.
And you are a man living in long-term recovery. And your sobriety date is?
It's July 5th, 2007.
Long time. So basically, just if you could tell me your story.
Tell you a story. We got enough time?
Well, it's about a half hour, you know.
Oh, my. How far do you want me to go back?
What kind of the ugly and ugly moving forward.
All right. Well, growing up was a lot of fun, and all the way up through high school was a lot of partying and stuff. And after high school, I truly did not know what I wanted to do with my life, as in career-minded goal. I remember I went to the recruiting office in the Army, and I went in there and I applied, and they didn't accept me. And I told them I could do anything physically demanding that you guys possibly could do. I just ain't. I'm not book smart. I'm street smart. I learned a lot on the street. I didn't grow up in the street. I grew up in a lovely family. Mom and Dad weren't home a lot. Dad worked on the road. He was a truck driver, and Ma worked two jobs. So I learned how to cook when I was young and stuff. But being book smart, I just was never a book smart guy. And I went in high school. I played the sports too. I went out for the football, and I started in two positions, and punter was a pretty good thing, and that was going for me. And after school, I graduated. I heard this thing on the radio for free tryouts, so I drove all the way out to Pennsylvania and tried to a free agent pro camp for pro football, and I didn't make it. And I went the following year, and I was like second runner up, but that don't mean nothing. Nobody chose me to come on their deal, and my stats were really good. I mean, out of 60 punts, I had 4.5 hang time, 43 yards. I mean, that's pro stat. But I just a lot of the things were the drinking too. I was drinking a lot after high school. A lot of parties, keg parties. We'd go out and party, and I'd always seem to get in fights, and it's probably because I was more fear-based. I remember when in 7th grade, I was in such fear of being accepted or wanted or being liked. I started wearing my father's leather jacket in 7th grade all the way up through, and that's what I call my shield. It was my leather shield. When you wear a leather jacket, I thought you could just act a certain way, act like a tough guy. And people, from what I hear now, whether they feared me, I don't know. But they kept away, and that's what I wanted. I didn't want nobody getting close to me to find out that I was really scared. And all through my life, I'm growing, but I'm not growing inside. I'm just a scared 10-year-old boy, and that's when I think I first started drinking, actually, and in 5th grade, I actually, all the kids were smoking pot, and I wanted to try it, I was asking, what's a bong? I kept on asking, what's a bong? And finally, I went and did it, and I blacked out for like an hour and a half. I don't remember nothing. You know, my mom would catch me, you know, and she actually sat down with me one day because she didn't really catch me. My sister ratted me out. That's the deal there. And you know, I grew up with a crowd where you didn't snitch. You know, you didn't tell nobody, and it was one of the best talks my mother ever gave to me when I was young. She said, I cannot make you stop, but I can tell you exactly how it makes me feel, you know, and she started crying. And that touched my heart. So then I stopped. I stopped any kind of drugs, but I did alcohol, you know. She'd let us kids drink in the yard, don't leave the yard and all that stuff. And but you know, and then there was another party, and people had this other stuff. It was a white powdered stuff, and everybody was in this room, and I thought we're here to party, you know. And I'm drinking beers, you know, and I'm having a blast. And then I'm going like, "Where is everybody?" I opened the door, and it was like, "Wow, don't you guys want to party?" Well, I didn't realize that they were on their own thing there, and you know, I got married when I was young too. I was 21, and beautiful woman. But that was more like a trophy to me, you know. And it's too bad, you know. I got in the pipe trade in 1989 is when I started. And I traveled a lot, you know, so I wasn't there. And you know what's the most important thing in the world to anybody is time, especially kids, or your dog. I wasn't there for my wife and stuff, and I would get drunk a lot, and I remember I'd buy her things, buy her car, buy her $1,000 ring. That wasn't it. That wasn't cutting it, man. It was time. It was the time thing. I needed to spend time, show more affection. I'm thinking, you know, and love her more.
Absolutely.
You know. Alcohol had its grips on me. You know, I came home. I came home in a blackout, and I came to, and we argued. She locked herself in the bathroom, and I broke the door. I remember grabbing her, and I remember seeing the most feared face I've ever seen in my life. You know, and I remember tossing her on the couch, but I don't remember hitting her, which I found out the next day supposedly I did. And that's one thing I've grown up never, ever to hit a woman. Never put your hands on a woman. And this did, you know, and that just put my everything down. I mean, I just felt like such a loser. Mm-hmm. You know, I took off that night, and I drove in a blackout 30 miles away and walked into a bar. And I came to in a bar, and I ordered more alcohol. I didn't even want to remember what happened. I know my knuckles were hurt and my feet hurt and stuff. Mm-hmm. Well, the next day I got home, and it was a tornado in that house. And she was gone, and by all rights, you know. Alcohol really did its number on that. Well, we ended up getting a divorce, and you know, I felt way less of a man. You know, I don't know if it's that time era or what. I thought me as being less of a man because I got a divorce. You know, I don't know if that makes sense or not. I know in the early. Maybe in the late after World War II, all the way up to the 70s, I think it was where people, you know, if you got pregnant and you weren't married, that was like a sin, right? Well, for some reason I just thought I was less of a man, you know, getting divorced, like I couldn't make it work, you know, so my self-esteem was way down, and then I started running with a heavier crowd, so to speak. Guys that rode motorcycle more, and one of them gave me something of a white powder, which was cocaine. Yeah. I'll never forget the look on his face. He wished he would never even gave me that. That was a new beginning in my life. That was a new chapter, and I'm on the go now. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. I took it and I ran with it. Wherever I could get it, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, eventually I lost a 10 or 11 acre house or 11 acre farm farmhouse because I wasn't making payments. And I would lose my fitter job, but I was in the union. I'd go to another company. And then I got introduced to methamphetamine and crank. I love crank. Crank would wake me up and keep me going for days. Well, then the meth did too, and suddenly I'm spending all my money on everything, all drug related, and I'm drinking, and life is not too good, I mean, man, all I wanted to be like James Dean, guy with a leather jacket, motorcycle, and a beautiful woman, I grew up with seeing movies like that, and man, this stuff took a hold on me, and it was winning, and I'm going downhill fast, and man, multiple DUIs. I met this woman, which is my fiance now, and I call her my honey bunny. Her name is Rami, and I met her in 2000, and she was scared of me. She was a bartender, and I'd walk in, and I'd slam a tequila and a Budweiser, and I'd take off. Wouldn't even tip her. Beautiful woman behind the bar, and she makes enough tips, blah, blah, blah. Well, anyways, one day I asked her if I could kiss her, out of the blue. But I always had to have alcohol or something in me to give me the courage to do stuff like that. And she said yes, and then before we actually got intimate, I told her to get to know me for is it 3 months or 30 days? 3 months, before we got intimate. What the heck was I thinking? I thought, that was, oh my gosh. But she got to know me, but then I don't think she really knew the real me, what was going on. I got wrapped up in the meth and the selling and in the wrong crowd. And I've racked up multiple DUIs now, and eventually, it was actually in 2007, April 24th, I got my 5th DUI. Prior to that, it was in 2004, I had another DUI, and I did all the right stuff, blah, 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 and I'm going to this 12-step meeting, and I'm staying sober and clean for like 11 months, and I'm working hard, and all of a sudden I said, well, I got my driver's license, and for me to get that driver's license, I had to go up to the Twin Cities and sign a piece of paper stating that I will never drink or drug again. And I read it, and I looked at it, and he said, if you want your license, you'll sign that. And I said, ever? I can't ever drink or drug again? Well, that's the deal. I signed it. That I did not know was a premeditated thought that someday I'm going to use again, which happened. I've had multiple car wrecks. One that I shouldn't have been alive from. But it just didn't dawn on me. I just couldn't stop. Oh, I just scratched. That won't happen again. Or I won't do this and I won't do that. Well, after 11 months being sober, I was going crazy, and me and my honey bunny were living with my mom and dad, and I remember vividly I bought a 6-pack of beer. They were sitting in the living room, and I took one of the beers, and I walked by them, and their eyes just opened wide open, and they were just, no. And I drank the one beer, and I thought, I'm fine. I'm cool. No, next day it went worse and worse and worse, and suddenly I'm on a 3-year run of running and gunning. I lost my job, and then I got another one, and then I actually got a DUI in a company vehicle. And that's when April 24th, 2007 is when I went to jail. When I got pulled over, I came to out of a blackout, and I looked right back at that officer, and I remember saying it very loud that my life is over as I once know it. I know my life is over. I've been in and out of the 12-step program probably 10 years, but I wasn't given it the full force of what I needed to do to stay clean and sober. That 24th of April of 2007, I got on my knees. You know, I'm going to prison. That's where I'm headed. And for some reason, that all I did was I prayed for help. And that help came later, you know, and I got to do the Wabasha County Substance Abuse Court Program, drug court program.
Yes.
And passed with that. You know, I lost my license for 3 years, and now things are going to get better. You know, they tell me I need to get a job, and I need to do 2 meetings a week. You know, well, I'm doing 4 meetings, 5 meetings. You know, and I'm asking them, how am I supposed to do all this stuff when I don't have a driver's license? Well, I need to make phone calls for rides. You know, and I'm very fortunate. There was a gentleman that lived 20 miles away. He'd come to my house, pick me up, drive back to a meeting, and then take me home, and then drive back home. So he's doing 80 miles round trip.
Oh, wow.
Just for me, so I can get to a meeting. That was pretty cool. Well, in drug court, they asked you to do you need to get a job. And I'm going like, well, how am I supposed to get a job and not have a driver's license? You know, and one of the participants said, well, I can help you there and get you a job and stuff. Well, cool. So I went and got an application. I got a job. You know how excited we get when we get a job? You know, it's like, yes, it's like I won.
Yes.
Right? So, and it's at the Brock's Candy Factory there in Winona, Minnesota. And going like, cool, chocolate. I love chocolate. This is going to be great. I'll love this job, you know. Well, I went and I got there to the job, and I put on the hairnet, and they told me to do this, and it was like I walked up this conveyor belt, and it was all full of gummy bears. Billions and billions of gummy bears going by, and I'm to pick out the bad ones. Just pick out the bad ones. Mm-hmm. And I said, really? Wow. It's not even chocolate, but a gummy bear? You know, and that's... Hence, my nickname is Minnesota Gummy Bear. That's how I got that name. I remember I was only there for 3 weeks, and I said, I looked up towards this guy, and I said, really? Is this all the better my life's going to get? Really? And I kid you not, it wasn't a couple days. They had the most torrential rain downpour in a 24-hour period. It was 23 or 24 and a half inches of rain in 24 hours. Wiped out the roads and stuff, and I couldn't make it to work, and they fired me. Well, I got to... you know, in a 12-step program, you get these guys you call sponsors. Well, my sponsor was an acquaintance of mine, which I ran into out of the blue. It seemed like we were at a sober event, and I didn't recognize him. And I looked right at him. I said, Bill, is that you? And he took his glasses off. And I went, wow. And he was smiling, man. He was glowing, and he was laughing, and he was enjoying life. And I wasn't finding nothing funny or great about this life that I'm having right now, because I'm in debt. I'm 3 months behind in rent, and I'm ready to get evicted. I don't have a job, and blah, blah, blah. Well, anyway, I asked him to be my sponsor, you know. And if you really knew him, how the way he was, and he got the way he is now, it's a slam dunk, a home run for me. Because if he can do it, anybody can do it.
Yeah, he's a great man.
Absolutely, absolutely. He actually sat me down. He didn't sit me down. We were sat at a picnic table, me and my honey bunny, and him and his girlfriend Tiffany. At the time, we're walking all the way across this field, and I told my honey bunny, I go, hey, that's Bill. I'll introduce you. And he sat down and he talked to me for like 45 minutes, and gave me hope. Because I had no hope. I get it, man. I get this 12-step thing, but I don't get it. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I mean, I need guidance. I need help. And he showed me the way. Wow. You know, and it was absolutely amazing. You know, I was sitting there and I asked him for help, and he put his arm around me. And I don't know what the arm of God ever felt like or feels like, but man, you know, I was tearing up, and he said, it's going to be okay. You see, I'm getting goosebumps. Mm-hmm. It's going to be okay. Yeah. And I truly believe that. Yeah. It's going to be okay. I just had to do some suggestions that he had offered me. And anyways, we're doing the deal, and I got fired from the gun beer factory, and I got to work with him. And as time is going on, I graduated drug court, and that was an amazing thing. And then I was working with Bill, and we ran into one of my old bosses, and I walked up to him, "Hey, Ken, I need to talk to you, man. I need to make amends with you." "No, it's all good. Are you looking for work?" I said, "Yeah. We got some work out in Wyoming." "In Wyoming?" "Yeah, I'll go." It was 18 months, no driver's license, and at this time, the relationship between my father and I was going very well. Alcohol had brought a big wall in between us, and I had a hard time dealing with everybody. I always thought alcohol was my problem. Here I found out it was my solution to deal with everyday life, and that's fact. I didn't know, and then going through this 12-step thing, and well, amazing to see the differences in how to cope with life today. That's how this recovery is going. Eventually I found a motorhome, and I got my own loan for it. And my father drove it out to Wyoming for me, so we were riding in it together, and bonding more time. And I made it out there, and I jumped on board with their program out there, and became part of them. And I was calling for rides for 3 years straight. Riding with people that I can't say you don't know how to drive. I'd always sleep when my father was driving, because he would ride on the bumper of everybody. So I just pretend I'm sleeping and shut my eyes wherever we went. It just drove me crazy. God works in mysterious ways in my life, and the reason why that was happening is I needed to ask people for help. That was my learning deal. Don't do it on your own. I need to ask you for help. And today I don't have a problem with asking anybody for help. I don't one bit. Growing up my whole life, my dad, my father always said, be a man, do it on your own. I get it today. I can't do it on my own. I don't want to. It's too hard.
Yes.
So then
It's a we program. It's a we program.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's where I met the fellowship, of all the brothers. I'm not into women. I really ain't. I love women. I love, but I have a beautiful woman at home. So, I love watching people in this recovery thing. I love watching them grow and getting it.
Yes.
When you see them, okay, wow. I am not the same guy I once was. Absolutely not. And people will tell you that.
Yeah.
And it just blows me away. Everyday life ain't perfect. It is not. But I have coping skills now to deal with that, and how we deal with that. I have made tons of friends. When I was out in Wyoming, I got introduced to a fellow that owned a place. It's called a ranch out there, and he invited people who were in recovery there. And that's where I met a bunch of the other guys that I'm really close friends with now, and I got friends all over the United States. I could ride my motorcycle anywhere and give them a call, and they'd say, come have a cup of coffee. And I got a place to stay, by all means. They'll invite me in. Hey, what are you doing? Let's go to a meeting. I'm all about meetings.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It's...
So what do you do now to pay it forward? What we had talked about.
Oh, yeah. Out in Wyoming, they told me to get a sponsor out there. I said, I got a sponsor in Minnesota. They said, no, you need to get a sponsor out here. And I'm going like, great. So I'm going to all these different meetings, and I finally, all right, I'm going to choose that guy. His nickname was Sturgis Mike, old biker. Mm-hmm. And I said, all right, I'm going to ask him, And he said, be in my house. I'll get you home. You just get a ride here, and I'm calling for rides all the time. And he said, here's a piece of paper. You need to fill this out. And I said, what's it for? Well, you're going to start doing jail meetings. What do you mean jail meetings? You're going to bring the 12-step recovery into the jail meetings and give these guys the solution. I said, okay. Well, I started that back in 2009, I believe, when I was out there in Wyoming. Well, when my gig was done up there working, when I came home, I asked Wabasha County if I could, in the jail, if I could come in there and bring in a 12-step program. Wow. And I do that every Friday, whether I want to or not. There's times I don't even want to go in there, and I'm so grateful I do. And I got to become, I'm very fortunate. When I'm down and out, this 12-step program, it tells you you need to help other alcoholics. Mm-hmm. Well, I'll call them up and say, hey, can I go inside here and talk to a guy one-on-one? Yeah. To someone that really wants this thing, And
yes.
That there, and I'm doing whatever meetings I can, and I'd drive 45 miles to go to a meeting in Rochester. Yeah. On the weekends, of course. Mm-hmm. During the work week, it's too hard for me in meetings. But now we have this coronavirus thing going on.
Yes.
And that is a little glitch, a little, I don't know, a little sidetrack to the meetings. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people who are relapsing. Mm-hmm. And that's a fact. I've seen it. Yep. And I've read about it. Yep. But we have this, I try to do one daily, whether I'm driving or not. I'll tap into this Zoom meeting that it's trust God, clean house, help others. It's based out of Ohio. Okay. And that's where this all began, out there in Founders Day back in 35. Actually, it started before that, the history of that 12-step. Yeah. But I'll get on these Zoom meetings. Some are okay. They ain't the same.
No.
I miss them. I like doing one-on-ones. When my home group is a church under the bridge, we call it. It's in Wabasha. Okay. And there was a group of people standing outside. And one day I came to the meeting and I walked up and I walked right through the crowd and there was this gentleman standing right there by the door, all by himself. I'll walk right up to whoever. I said, how you doing? My name's Jim. Nice to meet you. And we did the meeting and stuff, and we got done, and I got to know him a little bit, and he just got out of prison. Okay. And they gave him 2 weeks on his own. Okay. Right? I mean, 2 weeks. As he's walking to this meeting, he said, Dirk, you are so, I ain't going to swear on this thing, but you ain't going to make it. Yeah. For some odd reason, he calls me his angel because I came there to help him. And I asked him, what are you doing tomorrow? He said, whatever you're doing. Mm. I just want to stay sober.
Well, on that note, it is absolutely a wonderful thing that you do. You go in and you share your experience, strength, and hope. It's already hard to be incarcerated, and you give them hope. And I just think that's amazing what you're doing. And I thank you so much for coming here and sharing your story. Hopefully it saves somebody else. Not only that, I think a lot of people are wishing that, that there's, when they first started out in their addiction, that there'd be somebody like you waiting at the end of the tunnel. So I thank you so much for coming on here today and sharing your strength and hope with me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Thanks for listening to today's podcast of Addiction Abuse Recovery, everyone. I hope that you enjoyed it. I'm sure you did, as I did. I want you to know that if you want to follow along, just go ahead and hit subscribe on YouTube and Spotify, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Apple Podcast. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. Just search out Matt Logan Speaks. We have all kinds of great content for you. Hit the notifications button so that when something new comes up, you're the first to know. Have a great day.